Hello everyone, in this video I'll walk you guys through what a splitter is, the different types of splitters in CPI, and the workings of general splitter, iterating splitter and XML modifier. So what is a splitter? A splitter is something that consumes the incoming payload and splits it into small individual messages. So the different types of splitters in CPI are general splitter, iterating splitter, ITOC splitter, zip and tar splitters, EDI splitter, PKCS/CMS splitter. We will walk through what the general splitter and iterating splitter does in this video. I'll leave the working of the other splitters for a different future video. Let's see what a general splitter usually does. We have this payload that is being sent by the sender to our iFlow, and we have maintained a general splitter in the integration process with XPath expression / book. So what does this do is it takes the book element and converts the components of the book element into a separate message. So let's see what happens. The message comes to general splitter. General splitter creates a message with the first book ID BK101 and it is enclosed inside the catalog tag. Then general splitter sends this data to the next step. What happens next is the general splitter creates the next message for book ID BK102 and sends it to the next step. So what's with the iterating splitter? We'll send the exact same message from the sender into the iterating splitter and see what happens. The iterating splitter will split this message into two different messages, one for BK101, one for BK102, just like the general splitter did, except it will take only the book component. It will ignore its parent components. As you can see, it is given an XML tag, but the parent component catalog is ignored. The first message is sent by the iterating splitter to the next step, and then the second message is sent to the next step. So the different types of expressions that you can use are XPath and line breaker. So for XML you can use XPath, and for regular text files you can try out the line breaker. So what is an XML modifier? As you can see, we have introduced an XML modifier step next to the iterating splitter. So the role it plays is when the payload reaches the iterating splitter sends the first message to the XML modifier, and the XML modifier in turn removes the XML tag and takes out just what is left after the XML tag. And this is the properties area of the XML modifier. We have asked CPI to remove the XML declaration, which is this tag, and the XML modifier sends the message to the next step. The iterating splitter then sends the second message to the XML modifier. The XML modifier removes the XML declaration and sends just the message to the next step. Hi guys, I developed this small scenario so I can explain to you guys the uses of iterating splitter and general splitter using the same integration process. So we are going to use this small payload as the incoming message, and I'm going to introduce a start point and simulation endpoint here and paste the payload, say OK, and for iterating splitter I'm going to introduce an XPath // title. Let's run the simulation and see what happens. I click on this payload body, and you can see the iterating splitter has removed the other tags and kept just the title tag alive, and it has also introduced an XML declaration in front of it. So the iterating splitter has basically split this input message into two and maintained just the titles in it. So this is the first message, and this is the second message. Now let's go into the iterating splitter, change the expression type to token and maintain title, and run the simulation. You can see in the body that this expression type token, there is no XML declaration in front of the actual intended values. Yet the iterating splitter has split the incoming message into two, but it is just maintaining the exact title tags. Now let's move on to the general splitter and maintain the same and see what happens. Introduce start point, end point, payload is available, and run the simulation. The general splitter has also split the incoming message into two, but unlike the iterating splitter, it has maintained the parent nodes intact and introduced the XML declaration. It has two messages, as I said. You can see that the other node values remain unchanged in both the messages. I have no idea if this is the standard working principle of CPI or if I'm doing something wrong. Please drop your thoughts in the comment section. So it's helpful for all of us. So now for general splitter, if you want this XML declaration removed, you can introduce an XML modifier and tell CPI that you need all these items from the XML removed. I'll just maintain the simulation endpoint here and rerun the simulation. You can see the XML declaration has now been removed. The input payload does not have any XML declaration, but it has two book IDs. After the general splitter, an XML declaration is added to each book ID and the messages are forwarded to the XML modifier, and the XML modifier removes the XML declaration for both the books. I'll get into the details of this parallel multicast and sequential multicast in a near future video. I hope you guys learned something useful out of this video. I will see you all in another video. Thanks.